In the last video, we started considering this example on your screen. In this example, we're told that an insurance company is updating its payouts and cost structure for their insurance policies. Of interest to them is the risk analysis for customers currently on heart or blood pressure medication. The Centers for Disease Control and Prevention lists the causes of death in the United States for 1 year as follows. You have the different causes of death: heart disease, cancer, circulatory diseases, respiratory diseases, and accidents. And then we're given the respective percentages. The interest to us is to discuss whether a pie chart or a bar chart would be appropriate to present the data graphically. In order to use a pie chart, we would need that the values reported represent pieces that together constitute a whole quantity. As you might observe, if we add up all the percentages here, that is 30.3 plus 23 plus 8.4 plus 7.9 plus 4.1, we will get 73.7% total. This does not represent the total 100%, which means some pieces of this whole quantity has not been provided here. That provides us basis to say that a pie chart cannot be used to represent this data graphically. Please note that do not use a pie chart if you do not have all of the pieces of the whole together. And in this data, or in this example, we can see an instance of that, and that is why we are not going to use a pie chart. Rather, we will be using a bar chart. With that said, we should note that our answer to this question would be that a bar chart would be more appropriate since we do not have a total of 100%, in which case a pie chart could also have been useful. And that is because all the numbers or percentages do not add up to 100%. So having provided the reason why it cannot be a pie chart but a pie chart, it is now time to use appropriate technology to construct the chart, that is the bar chart that we recommended in the first part of this question. So let's go back to StatCrunch. So here I am in the data set in Excel. So I'm going to click in here and I'm going to try to copy this. I won't copy the total, just the different categories. And I'm going to copy that, Control C, and take that into StatCrunch. And here I go. I'm going to paste it there. And after pasting, I'm going to go to Graph. I would like a bar plot. So click on bar plot with summary. It has already been summarized because we already summarized the different percentages. So click on that, in which case my categories are in variable 1. I can see all the different categories of causes of death, and the counts are in variable 2. And I would like to display the value above the bar and compute. And here I can see immediately a comparison of the different causes of death. If I would like to expand or zoom in, I have this. So I have heart diseases being the leading one at 30.3%, followed by cancer. Now that we have used technology to construct a bar chart, it is time to take a few notes. The first important note is that whenever we add up our relative frequencies, it must always sum up to 1. Just to remind us, this is true in the data we worked with earlier. If we add up all of these numbers, it should add up to approximately 1. Sometimes it might be 0.9999999 or 1.000000001. Those can be ignored. They are usually due to rounding off errors, and as long as it is extremely reasonably close to 1, this is okay. Then, another important note is that, as we observed earlier, percentages should always add up to 100%. So if you're given a picture that depicts percentages, the first thing, after reading the context, is to check if the percentages truly add up to 100%. Then, a bar chart, a bar chart is usually constructed, as you have seen, by labeling each category on the horizontal or vertical axis, and then we align each category or line up each category with its frequency or relative frequency on the other axis. Whereas a pie chart is a circle divided into sectors. Each sector represents a category of data, and the area of each sector, in aligning with the area principle, must be proportional to the frequency or the number of instances in each category. We will later see how to draw a pie chart and how it can be effective in representing data. So we move on to the next page. In this example, we're told that the following data represents the seat capacity for major airlines on an annual basis. So you have the different airlines, United, Delta, and others, and then the capacity for each airline. So our goal is to construct a bar chart, sometimes an approximate one if you're using your hand to display the seating capacity by airline. Well, if we are using technology, we don't need an approximate one. So let's go ahead into our data set, grab the data or key the data into StatCrunch, or as we already have that in Excel, we're going to grab and paste, copy and paste. So here on your screen, I have the data set. I am going to copy just these details. I'm not going to copy the title. Please note that. I'm going to head over into StatCrunch. So I'm going to paste that here, and I'm ready to draw again my bar plot. So go that way, and with summary, because it has already been counted. And as I can see, I'm going to drag this aside. For the variable 5, this takes care of all the different categories. So my categorical variable is stored in variable 5, and the individual values in variable 6. And I like to put the value above the bar and compute. Here I go. If I would like to see this clearly, I can zoom in and I can see the bar chart. Done. So we go back to our workbench. After constructing this bar chart, the question requires us next to explain why a pie chart would not be appropriate here. Can you pause the video and reflect a little bit on this just before I say the answer, just to see if you're catching on to when a pie chart would not be appropriate? You may go ahead and pause the video to reflect on this. As you might have rationalized or reasoned, you observe that the data values given here were capacities for different airlines. It was not as if there was a fixed number of capacity that was completely available and this was shared among different airlines. That is not the case. Well, if that is not the case, where we are sharing a whole quantity or a whole collection of capacities and dividing it among the different airlines, it means that we're not in line to use a pie chart. A pie chart is useful when you have data that has been collected on a whole quantity that has been divided into componential parts. For that reason, a pie chart would not be appropriate to display this occupancy rate data. So here on your screen, you can see the reason we just stated. You're welcome to pause the video and read through it. It's merely a formal documentation of the reason why a pie chart would not be appropriate. With that said, we proceed to another example. In this example, we would like to use the provided graph to answer the following questions. First of all, when I am given a graph, I like to look at the title because that provides context behind the data that was used to create this graph. So this talks about the summary of primarily used web browsers. And we see Internet Explorer, Chrome, we have others, we have Opera, Safari, and Firefox with their respective percentages. This is our formal first foray into when pie charts can be used. Take note that if you add up all of the percentages, they add up to 100%, which means we have a whole percentage that was broken into pieces. Truly, we can justify that a pie chart is very useful here because it shows the breakdown of different web browsers by the different users. So we proceed to question A. Which browser has the smallest percentage of users? Well, looking closely, we would observe, let's zoom in a little bit further, and just to see which one is the smallest, and you observe that that would be Opera at 1.3%. So let's see. So this is, the question asks for which browser, so we'll report the name of that browser, which is Opera. Question B, what is the percentage of users that use Firefox as their primary web browser? So this time it's asking for the percentage corresponding to Firefox. And to Firefox, we have 20.4%. C, what percentage of users do not use Chrome? That would be all except 46.6%, which corresponds to users of Chrome. So that would be the total 100% minus 46.6%, and that gives 53.4%. Question D. If 500 users were surveyed, how many use Safari as their primary browser? Well, if 500 users were surveyed total, for Safari, so let's say number of Safari users, this would be 5.1% of the total of 500. This is 5.1%, that will be over 100 multiplied by 500. So on your calculator, this should give 25.5%. We'll round this up to approximately 26 users. We now proceed to the next example. We would like to use the following bar chart to answer the questions A, B, and C. And to begin with, we're going to read the title. These are different excuses for being late to work, and we have all of the categories given on the vertical axis and the counts or frequencies on the horizontal axis. So the first question we want to answer is, which excuse was used most often? Well, just looking at using the area principle, we see that the tallest bar chart here, or the tallest bar, corresponds to I didn't hear my alarm. So this would be the excuse used most often. So having written that answer, we proceed to question B. Which excuse was used least often? That means we're searching for the bar with the least area based on the area principle. And we can see that that would be, it was dark out, so I thought it was still night time. Having written that answer, we proceed to question C. Approximately how many more people used the excuse I had no clean pants to wear than it was dark out, so I thought it was still nighttime? What we would do to answer this question is to count how many people had no clean pants to wear from the graph, and that will be approximately 12 people. Looking here, it's approximately 12. And how many used the excuse it was dark out, so I thought it was still night time? And that would be approximately 4. So since the question is how many more people, that will be approximately 12 minus 4, which is equals to 8 more people. This tells the difference between those who use the different excuses. And we proceed then to another concept, and that's talking about the Pareto chart. The Pareto chart is just a variant of a bar graph or bar plot whose bars are drawn in decreasing orders of frequency or relative frequencies. This means that the bar graphs in the Pareto chart have been arranged in according to the sizes of their bars. So starting from the biggest to the smallest. So let's show an example of this using this example. The data to the right reflect the percentages of employees at a place of work with different levels of education. Well, in this case, since this is about percentages, we need to check that the total percentage is 100, and that definitely checks out. The next thing is, since these are all parts of a complete whole percentage, we can use a pie chart to show the breakdown of that whole percentage. So let's develop a pie chart in StatCrunch to illustrate this data. So here we are in the Excel file that contains the data. This time, I'm going to show you that it is also possible to relabel each of the column titles in StatCrunch. So I'm going to grab the entire data set along with the title. I'm not going to grab the total. So I'm going to copy and open StatCrunch, and this time I'm going to click right up here since it involves the titles of each of the variables. And I'm going to paste, and you see that automatically it reflects that the titles have been changed. Sometimes you can drag to see the total data values of the variable education level. And with that said, I am ready to draw a pie chart with summary. And in this case, we would like to indicate that the categories are in education level. So that is done. And then the respective percentage counts are in percentage. So right here. And in this case, we have the different counts, and I am good to compute. And immediately, boom, we can see the different percentages for the different categories we have. So going back, we can say we've developed a pie chart to illustrate this data. And the beauty of that is you can immediately see at a glance that high school graduate takes a huge chunk of these categories. So back to what we're doing here. We would also like to develop a Pareto chart to illustrate this data. Let's see how to do that. To develop a Pareto bar chart in this case, I'm going to go back into StatCrunch, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to hover the mouse over graph, go to bar plot, then with summary, click on that, and I'm going to drag this to the side a little bit and indicate that the categories are in education level and the percentages or counts are in percentage. This time, I would like to order the bars in the bar charts in descending order based on the percentages or counts. So I'm going to need to tell StatCrunch to do that for me. And so I'm going to say, I would like you to order by the counts in descending order from the biggest to the smallest. So counts in descending. This helps you to tune it towards providing you with a Pareto bar chart. And then I like the value above the bar and compute. And you can see, let's blow this up a little bit. You can see immediately that the bars have been ordered in sizes based on the respective percentage counts. This is a Pareto bar chart. It tells you immediately what is the biggest, what is the smallest, and is mostly used in manufacturing or processing plants to assess where most problems in a production process might be coming from. All right, with that done, we can then go back to the last question on this page. Which of the data visualizations should you report and why? I will report either. I can use either a pie chart here, and I can also use a bar chart here, depending on which shows what we would like to outline or highlight the most. If it is pertaining to problems, and we would like to see where most of the problems are coming from, then using a Pareto bar chart would be great. As far as showing the breakdown into different pieces, a pie chart would also be acceptable. So with that said, the point we're trying to make here is this: both visualizations using a pie chart or a Pareto bar chart, these are both acceptable. And now we go on to graphical misrepresentations of data. So to illustrate sometimes an example of a bad graph, we are to consider the information in the why we can't lose weight chart shown to the right. In our own case, is shown down here just to help us with space, which is in the magazine style of graph. Now, could the information provided be organized into a pie chart? Why or why not? What you immediately notice is this. What do you see? This is showing different, reasons why we can lose a pie chart, why we can lose weight, rather. And our interest is, if you look at the percentages, what strikes you immediately? Did you say that the percentages don't add up to 100%? That is true. So this immediately tells us something, that this is not data that can be organized into a pie chart, because it does not show the total 100% of all respondents being broken down into the pieces. So in this case, we can accurately say that this information cannot be organized into a pie chart because all the percentages do not add up to a whole 100%.